Good morning. Today we are going to start our day with the Holy Church of Santa Maria Maggiore, which is a major papal basilica as well as one of the 7 pilgrim churches of Rome and the largest Catholic Marian church in Rome, Italy. The basilica enshrines the venerated image depicting the Blessed Virgin Mary as the health and protectress of the Roman people. Santa Maria Maggiore, one of the first churches to celebrate Virgin Mary. The magnificent mosaics of the nave and triumphal arch, seen as milestones in the depiction of the Virgin, depict scenes of her life and that of Christ, but also scenes from the Old Testament. Moses striking the Red Sea, the Egyptians drowning in the Red Sea, etc. The church retains the core of its original structure despite several additional construction projects and damage by the earthquake in 1348. The church building in Rome is in this period, as exemplified in Santa Maria Maggiore, was inspired by the idea of Rome being not just the center of the world of the Roman Empire, as it was seen in the classical period, but the center of the Christian world as well. The basilica is sometimes referred to as Our Lady of the Snows, which refers to a legend of a Roman patrician, John, and his wife, who made a vow to donate their possessions to Virgin Mary. Our next stop was the Colosseum, which was the highlight of our tour to Rome. We have done a full-length visit of the Colosseum and its underground at night. Hence, we have already covered the history and the importance of the Colosseum in the society of Rome. Today, we will just enjoy the views from atop. If you remember the reference to a project in Rome to rebuild the arena floor with wood and completely cover the underground area. Here you can see the partial covering of the wooden floor of the arena, which in a year or two will be fully covered under that project. We had the first view of the Roman Forum from atop the Colosseum. Moving towards the Roman Forum via the Arch of Titus. The Roman Forum retained its importance especially during the Republican period when the valley gradually filled with public buildings whose remains are still preserved. These buildings, which almost always originally had a timber frame and brick facing, were reconstructed on various occasions, in part because they were frequently destroyed by fire or civil strife. It was this unplanned continuity of its buildings over time which gave the Roman Forum its typically disorderly appearance without a unitary plan. The area's development peaked with the victorious end of the Punic Wars in the 2nd century BC when the 4 basilicas were built. The Forum gradually took a different role, that of a monumental center and place of religious memory, whilst public life moved to the nearby imperial forums. This shift was started first under Julius Caesar and then Augustus and the early emperors of 1st BC to 1st AD. As a consequence, building activities were interrupted, with one last moment of glory in the late empire with the construction of the honorary columns. True decline began with the imperial court moved to Ravenna and the edicts of the 4th century AD decreeing the closure of the temples, some of which were turned into churches. This was followed in the 5th century by Vandal invasions. The abundant buildings fell into ruin whilst the ground level of the forum rose to cover what remained, buried under vegetation, and now on the edge of the city, the square became a pasture which was called the Cow's Field. The Vicus was one of the oldest routes in Rome. Ever since Republican times, it had linked the neighborhood of Carine on the Esquiline Hill, one of the most densely populated parts of Rome, with the Forum, crossing the Via Sarca, dating to the 4th century AD between the so-called Temple of Romulus and the Basilica of Maxentius. Liable to changes in its route with the growth of the city, it remained in use throughout antiquity. Its current route is subsequent to the Neronian fire of 64 AD and the construction in 75 AD of the Temple Perseus, or the Forum of Peace. The architects who designed the basilica in the 4th century AD did not interrupt the road, which continued through a tunnel. The House of Vestals was a 3-story 50-room palace in the ancient Roman Forum, built around an elegant elongated atrium or court with a double pool. The complex lay at the foot of the Palatine Hill, where a sacred grove that was slowly encroached upon lingered into imperial times, when all was swept away by the fire of Rome in 64. The House of the Vestals was rebuilt several times in the course of the empire. It primarily served as a residence building. The archaeological finds from this period include a hoard of 397 gold coins from the 5th century and another 830 Anglo-Saxon coins dating from the 9th and the 10th century. The Palatine Hill, which relative to the 7 hills of Rome in the centermost and one of the most ancient parts of the city. It has been called the first nucleus of the Roman Empire. It is now a large open-air museum, whilst the Palatine Museum houses many finds from the excavations here and from other ancient Italian sites. Imperial palaces were built here starting with Augustus. Before imperial times, the hills were mostly occupied by the houses of the rich. The name of the hill is the etymological origin of the word palace and its cognates in other languages. According to Roman mythology, the Palatine Hill was the location of the cave known as the Lupercal, where Romulus and Remus were found by the she-wolf Lupa that kept them alive. A trip across the Tiber River brings us to Trastevere, a charming medieval neighborhood with a fiery temperament. A stroll around Trastevere, a formerly working-class district with heady nightlife, will take you away from the crowds to a more hidden corner of Rome. Its very name, Trastevere, across the Tiber, evokes both its geographical location and sense of difference. Endlessly photogenic, this neighborhood's labyrinth of backstreet lanes heaves after dark as crowds swarm to its foodie and fashionable restaurants, cafes, and bars. Our destination in the heart of Trastevere is the Trapeziano, a restaurant which offers the best wines of Lazio along with trapezzini and supli. You can see the entrance of their underground cellar from the restaurant floor. Ponte Cisco is a bridge in Rome's historic center spanning the river Tiber. The construction of the current bridge occurred between 1473 and 1479 and was commissioned by Pope Sixtus IV. If you have enjoyed this historical account of ancient Rome, please subscribe to our channel for more videos in the future.